progressive labor movement need to be forces of change. You all can be the catalysts. It bothers me every day to see the poor and unemployed in this country digging in our dustbins. It bothers me to see citizens searching the beat and dump for a living. I am not an economist, so I cannot understand why a country so wealthy with oil and natural gas should have poverty and unemployment. I am not an economist. I don't understand why a budget with billions of dollars should pass through our hands and our politicians would come back and ask for more money before the year ends. I am not an engineer, but we have the pitch lake, and yet we have the worst roads in the Caribbean. We have become complacent. We have accepted traffic on a daily basis. This shouldn't happen in Trinidad and Tobago. Some of us really want us to remain a third world country, a developing country. What solutions can the progressive labor movement offer? You must tell this government about Hugo Chavez and his Bolivian revolution. He used the oil and wealth to help the citizens of Venezuela. The OWTU and the Joint Trade Union Movement need to present annually their version of the budget, a people's budget. You all must create a budget that places less emphasis on infrastructure and more on the people. I do not understand why a country with so much wealth should have hospitals without medicines. Last year there was a report in the newspaper in September last year. A woman in the San Fernando hospital gave birth in a toilet because there were no beds in the hospital available for her. And that has become very common. We have grown accustomed to this. We have grown accustomed to this decay. We have grown accustomed to this crisis. The progressive labor movement need to consider being a voice for the contract workers, the CPEP and the URP workers who do not belong to a union. They are being exploited. Some women have to sell their bodies to get a job. Che Guevara, in 1965, in a letter to his children, wrote, and I quote, "Always be capable of feeling deeply any injustice committed against anyone, anywhere in the world. This is the most beautiful quality in a revolutionary." I thank you. Could you believe that amidst the poverty, amidst the unemployment, the government wants to pass the salary and pension bills to increase their salaries? And for retired judges, something has to be wrong. Something is wrong somewhere. This madness cannot continue again. It reminds me of David Rudder's tune. Not a fet in here is madness. If our political consciousness is awakened only when there's a by-election or an election by the THA or a local election, then we are in a state of crisis. Many of our citizens suffer from a short-term memory. Some of us might forget about building of the smelters. The OWTU need to intervene to restore democracy. The progressive labor movement needs to intervene. You all must organize public meetings. Don't wait for the election bell. Organize in savannas and parks. Organize in schools. Why not create the University of the Harris Promenade? Let the workers know what true democracy means. Democracy has failed in this country. For many of us, democracy occurs once every 5 years when we stain our fingers. I want the OWTU executive to educate their membership. Tell them about George Padmore, who contributed articles to the Vanguard. He was a fighter against imperialism and colonialism. I want you to educate the membership and other trade unions about the Black Power era, when Eric Williams sent the police to terrorize George Weeks and your members. He seized books from your library, which Eric Williams felt was communist and socialist and subversive. I want this progressive labor movement to form cells and study groups in communities. This was a major form of education by C.L.R. James and others in the 1960s. The joint trade union movement needs to establish a newspaper. You need to use the social media to get your message out there. I know the Vanguard has played a crucial role in educating the population. That Vanguard has to increase its circulation. I want to commend the OWTU for being involved in society, for being part of the community, for such activities like your Labor Day activities, the primary school quiz and poster competition, the recent donation to the Audrey Jeffers School for the Deaf. But more work has to be done by other unions. More work has to be done by the progressive labor movement. There's a breakdown in society. A few months ago, you might have seen that YouTube video with a woman beating her daughter with a belt. A few weeks ago, a few days I should say, there was a woman with a shovel beating her son. Something has to be done if the unions remain silent. This wasn't part of the workers' agenda, and this was now Vision 2020, where parents should be disciplining their children. So this has to be condemned. Sometimes I look around at this country in crisis, and I say, is God really a Trinidadian? He must be a Tobagonian. Maybe he migrated and applying for his green card. Something has to be wrong. Every worker has a moral responsibility to protect the weak and the voiceless. You have to protect the defenseless. Che Guevara spoke of the need to develop a consciousness where new values are acquired and a society as a whole is transformed into an enormous school. What does this mean? It means you cannot just attack the political sphere and economic sphere and ignore the moral and social spheres. You have to include entire spheres. All of society must move forward. You cannot say we're going to get rid of the political regime and we have a moral breakdown in society. Something has to be wrong in this country if we need an integrity commission and an equal opportunity commission. We should be having those bodies in Trinidad. We should have honest, upright citizens. Our political culture reflects a country in crisis. Our parliament has become a circus of peacock and childish antics, and some cowards use parliamentary privilege to attack innocent citizens and institutions. How could I describe the low state of political affairs? Some of you all might be familiar with the novel Animal Farm. It's about animals who chase away humans from the farms. And a few pigs took over the farm, and they felt they were superior over the other animals. And these pigs betrayed the other farm animals. They even put up a commandment. All animals are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Now this is what has occurred in this country. In 1962, we got rid of British imperialism, but we replaced it with locals who were elected, but they betrayed us. They exploited us. And now it is so difficult to distinguish the pigs and the humans, the former exploiters and the present exploiters. I even want to say sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between the government and the opposition. Both supported Section 34. Both wanted an increase in salaries. It's becoming very difficult every day to know who is government and who is opposition. In this small country, we have many gifted people, many talented people, many intelligent young persons and older persons, but they are not in politics. You know why? They don't want their name tarnished. They don't want to send pre-action protocol letter to people. They don't want to be scandalized in the weekly newspapers. And this is what is destroying this country. We have plenty of honest people out there, you know, but they don't want to go in parliament. They don't want their name dragged through the mud. They have dirty politics. They will stay on the fringes and look on as Trinidad and Tobago is destroyed. The progressive labor movement has to intervene now. You all should create a shadow parliament, a grassroots parliament with an upper house and a lower house. This shadow parliament needs to meet around the country and address the issues properly. Our institutions are failing us. Take something like the court system. How many times have you seen guilty persons freed and innocent persons jailed? Something has to be wrong. Some poor persons cannot afford a proper lawyer. They have to wait so long. You know, I find it very strange that the parasites in our society sometimes go free. We are taking so long to deal with the Hindu Credit Union and Clico and Koldahat. I am surprised. These are the parasites that have exploited us and drained this country, and we are taking so long to bring these people to justice. I want the progressive labor movement to supply proper leadership, quality leadership. I know you all have it within your ranks. And the quality of a leader is not a charismatic leader or who is a good organizer. A leader doesn't mean somebody who could pull off a good party, a political meeting at Woodford Square or Mid-Center Mall, you know. A leader is someone who has the people at heart. I am glad that the President General mentioned the issue of the soldiers. I also want to mention about the police killing civilians. And that also should be something that the labor movement needs to deal with. And very recently, there was a threat by a former coup leader. And I get the impression from the acting police commissioner that everything is fine. Everything is okay. I get this from the feeling from the Minister of National Security. And the trade union movement, you all need to be the watchdog of democracy. You all need to guard this country. Something has to be wrong. I'm also glad that the President General mentioned the murders. And he also mentioned the guns coming into this country. I feel the OWTU and the labor movement need a net to get some of these big fishes. There's too much talk. There's too much talk and little action. You know there's some lyrics from Tree Canal. Talk, you mocking pretender. Talk, you bloody deceiver. Too much talk in Trinidad and Tobago. We need some action. I don't want you to ever believe that marching is useless. I know this union and the joint trade union movement has been marching. Nothing is wrong with marching. Some of you all will know about the Arab Spring that shook the Arab world. You will know about the revolutions of 1989 that brought down the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. I want you all to keep on marching. I also want you to think about other strategies. There was the Occupy movement. During the 1960s in the civil rights movement, there were sit-ins, there were freedom rides, there were rallies and campaigns. You have to turn up the heat now. I know that is very important, political representation. I want to encourage you. I also want to remind you all that you do not have to enter parliament to create change. Mohandas Gandhi remained outside parliament, but he brought down British imperialism. The greatest fight of Nelson Mandela against apartheid was when he was in prison. I'm very glad that the last May Day, the message was clear. We are not for sale. And I'm very glad, because some trade unions tend to be in the back pockets of the government or the back pockets of the opposition. So I was very clear, I was very happy to see that you all are not for sale. I want to end by speaking about a very important topic, and that topic is about revolution. There's a book which C.L.R. James lectures entitled, "You Don't Play with Revolution." Of course, a revolution doesn't mean armed struggle. A revolution could be an intellectual revolution, a moral revolution, a revolution of the thinking, of the mind, a political revolution, change your psyche. I want to remind the government and the opposition that whenever there are injustices and exploitation of the weak and the innocent, there will be revolutions. And whenever revolution comes, make sure you're on the right side. Whenever evil and corrupt persons rule and empower, a revolution is coming. Whenever there are corrupt institutions and a few persons become wealthy from a country, a revolution is coming. There will be a revolution, and I guarantee you that. Whenever poverty, racism, religious discrimination, and unemployment exist, there will be a revolution. The OWT does not have to start a revolution. The revolution is here. And I want to tell the commander of the Blue Shirt Army, Commander Roger, to mobilize that Blue Shirt Army. I thank you.